Now then, he told me that he was born in 1914 when his father was away at war against the Russians, and that in World War I, and that his father was killed when his mother was 3 months pregnant with him, so he never met his father. He told me it was preordained that he would be a Prussian cavalry officer because everybody in his family for the past 300 years had been Prussian cavalry officers, so that was just what he was supposed to do. I'm reflecting back on our conversations. He told me that, I wasn't aware of this before, that German soldiers were not allowed to vote. They were not allowed to be political. They couldn't express political opinions. And he said, we were just allowed to follow orders. We couldn't influence politics in any way, fashion, or form. So he also told me that the Knight's Cross that he was awarded was actually awarded to him once he had been captured. By that time that the paperwork had gone through, and they mailed it to his house, which was in East Prussia. And he said he never went back to East Prussia. His family fled. So he said, you know, his Knight's Cross stayed in Eastern Prussia, but he said that he was not proud of his medals. He told me that they were sticky with the blood of his men and of the opponents. And he said he didn't earn the medals. He said his men earned the medals. He was just the guy directing orders behind the line, or I guess in his case, probably in front of the line. He was captured by the British at Anzio. He told me they were in an artillery barrage. He was leading about, I think it was 12 or 15 men, if I remember correctly. He was leading a group of men, I guess a Stoßtruppe or a Spähtruppe, something like that. And he said they went into this house in Anzio to try and get away from an artillery barrage. And there were British soldiers in there that had Tommy guns trained on them. And he screamed at them, "Do not shoot." He said, I remember him telling me, "We don't want to murder each other." I guess that means don't murder me. In any event, he was captured, and the British handed him over to the Americans, and he talked about being on the transport ship going back to America, or going to America to be a POW camp. And the American Navy had given them orders, the POWs order to scrape the paint. And the Nazis amongst them were telling them not to follow the orders, not to scrape the paint, to go on strike. And Ansgeog was saying, hey, you know, these guys are treating us good, they're feeding us good, do what they want. And he told me, he said the Nazis amongst the group were mad enough at him that he was afraid that they were going to throw him overboard. This picture that you see on the internet, Mitch, I'm assuming you'll put this picture up. When he gave this to me, he wrote a very nice dedication on the back of it about being in combat against my father. Unfortunately, the sands of time, the ink has bled into the back of the picture and you can no longer read it. So, but he was a very touching man. I've interviewed a lot of guys and he was fascinating. He truly was. Rittmeister Ansgeog van Hiking, cavalry captain. I remember he said that in the beginning of the war, he said, especially in Russia, he said he would have a reconnaissance troop on horses, and he said they would get an MG-34 with a bunch of ammunition and load it on one of the horses, and he said that they would race behind initially the Polish lines and then the French lines and then the Russian lines. He said they would race behind the lines and reconnoiter and see what's going on and then race back out. And he said if they got in trouble, they took the machine gun off that horse and laid the horse down. He said then they'd lay down base of fire and try and eradicate whatever problem they were having and get out of there. But he said my job was just to get in and get out, just to find out what was going on. What they must have seen growing up in Germany at that point. And then seeing everything destroyed and then being rebuilt. And he was a very old man when I saw him. He had a book about the 29th Panzer Grenadier that another man had already given me the week before. And he tried to give it to me, and I didn't accept it because I already had it and I didn't want to be a glutton. But I hope I didn't insult him by not taking that book. Anyway, hats off to Ansgeog van Hiking. He said that to me. He said he takes his hat off to the Americans at how well he was treated in being captured in prison camp and the transport to America. He said he couldn't believe how well he was treated. So thank God for our side and the spirit of the American people. Signing off, Lest We Forget World War II Museum.